It was pretty great.
This is being live streamed.
It is being live streamed. How do you feel about that?
Well, if my boss is watching. Oh, this is recording in progress. If my boss is watching, this would not be a good episode to start.
Why? Because you're going to have a bad mouth?
Yeah.
His boss is a Spider-Man fan.
I heard my boss say the S word today for the first time.
Spider-Man.
No, he said shit. I was like, we're getting there.
So did Dr. Strange.
So close.
Yeah. All right, let's start this thing. You guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's the CultureSmash CAST, episode 587 for December 22nd, 2021, the Spider-Man Breakdown Edition. I'm Stephen Lackey, editor of CultureSmash.tv. Nathan?
I'm Nathan Savino, contributor to CultureSmash.tv.
Tina?
I'm Tina Qualls, contributor to CultureSmash.tv.
Nico?
Nicholas Qualls, contributor to CultureSmash.tv.
Zach?
Zach Martin.
What
am I?
I wondered who that was going to throw off. I didn't expect it would be Tina.
What threw me off was Nico's clicking his cough drop against his teeth, and it's annoying the fuck out of me.
Oh, yeah, I see. Passing the blame.
I'm trying to be conscious of that.
Passing the blame.
Yeah, well,
failures.
Tennessee allergies and sinuses are
Test.
just crazy right now.
Well, it doesn't help that it's 70 degrees one day, 40 degrees the next day.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be 72 or 74 on freaking Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty bad. I've been using the...
But global warming's not a thing.
Global warming is not a thing. But boy, the Flonase is a thing, and it is my friend right now. All right, so we're here to do some business, but let's get into let's get the unnecessary stuff out of the way. So right away, we'll start with a special thanks to Skinny Mixes for supporting the CultureSmash CAST. Skinny Mixes are coffee and dessert syrups that are 0 sugar, 0 calorie, and 0 to 2 carbs. Head on over to skinnymixes.com and try some of these syrups, such as white chocolate and dark chocolate and salted caramel. Those are all great in coffee. And there's also one of my favorites, which I am partaking in at this very moment, which is a margarita mixer. Use promo code CultureSmash for a 15% discount on your order. I have it right here. It's right here. Yeah. Delicious.
Bling bling.
Mm-hmm. I might be having a little more tequila than I am Skinny Mix tonight. But it's one of those nights. Okay, so let's get into the box office because that'll lead us right into our story. And what we're all here for kind of is the Spider-Man breakdown. Number 10 over the weekend. Zach saw this movie, Resident Evil.
Oh,
Welcome to Raccoon City. Made 316,000. It's made 16 million so far.
Okay.
I told you it was 1 out of 10. I told you.
You're not wrong.
I told you 1 out of 10.
So here's what I was expecting walking in is basically another spiral to where it's so bad it's laughable. This is a gigantic piece of shit.
It's bad, y'all.
So no laughing.
Like 2 or 3 times. In the whole
not
film.
worth the price of admission.
I like the font that they used. I like the small details. Like this, like you could tell like someone on the production design cared. So like when they grab shotgun shells and it says like Steel Boys on them, I was like, yeah.
I like the Prestige better than this. The Prestige.
What was the original?
Protege.
Protege. But like
But
literally,
only because
I
Mississippi
also
was
like
hot.
this is a gigantic piece of shit.
It's bad.
That nobody needs to see this.
Number 9 is Clifford the Big Red Dog. It made $404,000, made 48.5 million so far. Number 8 is Eternal, still in the top 10. It made 1.2 million. It's made 163.6 so far. Number 7, what?
Pushpa, the ride.
Pushpa. Yeah, it made
Probably
1.3 million. Yeah, probably. And that's its opening weekend. Number 6 is House of Gucci. That one made another almost $2 million, made 45 million so far. Number 5 is Nightmare Alley, opening weekend for that one too. It made 2.8 million.
Who let them open Nightmare
against
Alley.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Not that maybe they thought it would be counter programming, and I can kind of see that, I guess. But I think a lot of people who would want to see Nightmare Alley probably also want to see Spider-Man.
Yeah, I want to see both, and I was going to see Spider-Man.
Well, I was
If you
going
could-
to see Spider-Man. Also, on top of that, though, one of them is likely to get spoiled while the other one is not.
I
That-
really do
that
want to
too.
see Nightmare Alley.
Yeah, so Nightmare Alley is probably going to be Christmas Day viewing for me.
But I mean, the only reason I didn't see it was because it's like showtimes are like 7:30, and I'm like, I'm not waiting 3 hours, or in Green Hills.
That's because Spider-Man has every other theater.
Yeah, well, you got Spider-Man in every other theater, and it's going to get worse this coming weekend. We'll talk about that in just a second. Number 4 is Ghostbusters Afterlife. It made 3.4 million. It's made 117 so far.
A gigantic piece of shit.
No, it is not. Number 3 is West Side Story. It made 3.6 million. It's made 18 million so far. I hear it's really good, but it's just not in my wheelhouse, so no. Number 2 is Encanto. It made 6.4 million. It's made 81, almost 81.5 million so far. And number 1 this weekend is Spider-Man No Way Home. It made 260 million on its opening weekend.
So, quick question, because me and Steven were tossing around numbers. Did anyone guesstimate number-wise come close to that?
No. Like,
I was
studio
guessing
estimates-
around
we'll
90
get
to
into
100
the story
million.
later, but like studio estimates were like 150.
And I even think that's really high. Honestly, I mean, we still have COVID floating around, but apparently no one gives a fuck.
It's
Just
also,
saying.
it's also
Like-
December.
Steven was going, what, 60
I was
million?
like 60 million. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I
So
was thinking
opening.
about 200 million off.
90.
Well, that's what Zach was thinking too. So this weekend is going to be a crowded weekend, but I don't think it's going to make a difference. It's a bunch of mediocre shit. It sounds like, because the Matrix Resurrections opens at 68% on Rotten Tomatoes. Sing 2 is opening 67% on Rotten Tomatoes. The King's Man is opening. It's 43% on Rotten Tomatoes, and The Tender Bar, which is a Ben Affleck movie that I'm not convinced is opening wide, but Rotten Tomatoes and Box Office Mojo both say that it is, and it's 48% currently.
Amazon Prime.
Yeah, it's an Amazon movie, so
I think The Matrix too, because it has a release on HBO, dropped today.
it's gonna get
Yeah.
hammered. I think
I mean,
because of its HBO release.
Yeah, it's at 69%. Nice.
So nice. So Zach and I were just talking about this because we want to go see The Matrix in IMAX, but you can't get a good showing. Like, it's showing in IMAX.
Yeah, your showing showtimes for IMAX are literally 11:30 in the morning or 10:30 at night.
Everything in between is Spider-Man, and I think there's
which
what.
I think which Spider-Man's gonna take control this week too.
Well, this is what I think is funny. I think on top of Spider-Man, just being popular, also The Matrix is dropping on HBO Max, and I feel like IMAX in particular has been pretty vocal about their feelings on day and date streaming, and they're like, well, fuck you, then you can show your movie at 10 o'clock at night.
Well,
You know?
I mean, one of these films is only in theaters and just grossed $260 million in one weekend.
Yeah,
The other is streaming on HBO Max.
and is also rated R, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and what's funny is word of mouth on Spider-Man it's blowing up. Like people are,
Oh yeah,
Not
everybody
if I
loves
had
it.
my way with it.
and I've known several people who are going again.
I want to go see it again.
The boys
I'm
wanna
gonna see it
see
again.
I want to go see it again.
I've got to take Ada to see it, so
I'm
I'll end up
good.
seeing it a second time. Yeah.
I'm good.
So before we get into the story,
Tipping
let's
my
get
hand
a
there.
little film ball update.
Yeah.
Do we have to?
Yes, we
Yes.
do.
Damn it.
Yes, we do. Okay. So currently I'm going to do the bottom 3 right now because the top 2 I want to go a bit more into detail with.
Yeah.
Currently in 5th place is Nathan with 150. What is that? 58?
Yeah.
158.6. Now, Nathan still has a Journal for Jordan and a couple more weeks of West Side Story. Zach has 246.4 million and still has Sing 2, The King's Man, and Nightmares Alley.
Oh, they're gonna save you, Zach.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And in 3rd place is Steven with 308.9 million. Unfortunately, Steven, you have like one more week left of Wolf.
Yep.
Yeah, its highest grossing is 122.
I think Zach's gonna overtake Steven.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Now, what I currently have, so I wanted to play around with these numbers because this to me is hysterical. I'm currently in second place. Spooderman, boom! I went from 5th place to 2nd place, right behind Nico. I think I was like 100. I'm currently at like 181 million away from him.
Yep.
However, I noticed that there was a lot of articles saying how Spider-Man actually outperformed its first weekend compared to Infinity War. So I took the first 4 weeks of Infinity War and I put those as my let's play around number because Spider-Man's already passed its first week numbers for Infinity War. Infinity War first 4 weeks made roughly about $605 million. So I put that in as my Spooderman, right? Which puts me in first place against Nico's 498.6. And that's only about 126.9 difference with my other 2 movies that didn't perform that well.
So basically, if
he only has Matrix and I think American Underdog.
Yeah, American Underdog.
Yeah.
So basically, assuming Spider-Man performs as Infinity War did,
If the trend keeps
up,
continuing,
I have to make 125. What was it?
126 million at least
to keep first place.
So I've seen a lot of articles comparing those 2 movies, and I think Spider-Man's going to do very well. And it might still work out that you end up in first place, and I think that will be hilarious. I don't think this movie is going to hold up to what Infinity War did over the longer term.
I just needed to hold up for 4 weeks.
Well, I don't think in the first 4 weeks it's gonna, because remember, Infinity War is this first half of a culmination of 10 years of storytelling. This is the end of a trilogy, the Spider-Man movie. I don't think it's gonna be the same.
The end of 20 years of Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
It's also the first like super intense hype movie from
That's true.
Pandemic.
People have been cooped up. They needed Spider-Man.
That is true. Yeah. That is true. It's going to be interesting to see.
Plus, whatever little bit it does fall off, keep in mind it's already outpaced the first weekend of Adventures or Infinity War. So I have a little bit of a buffer in case it does start to slip those last.
Well, the timing too. You're getting this full holiday week.
I question how much it's going to fall off at Christmas. I think people go out Christmas Day for movies.
It is definitely going to be an interesting last couple weeks.
It sure is.
There's competition coming out with Matrix and stuff.
Yeah.
They could eat into it, but I don't think it will eat into it a lot.
I think Matrix is going to underperform.
I agree.
I agree. I think that's the case.
I agree with that.
I think if the word of mouth had been better on the Matrix, we'd be looking at something different. But the word of mouth, I'm fascinated with Matrix because it's so divisive. I love to see a movie that's this divisive. Even if I end up hating it, it's still fascinating. When you look at the reviews of this thing, people love it or they hate it.
I started it on HBO, by the way.
And don't say anything. Don't say anything.
I will say, it looks like the Qualls have this round.
Yeah, that's true.
It certainly does.
No, look, Tina. We don't know how well Sing 2 is going to ultimately perform.
That's true. You never know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Al Borland might win.
That's true. That would be something. All right, so the Doctor Strange 2 trailer.
I mean, the Spider-Man in credit scene.
Yeah, pretty much the Spider-Man in credit scene.
Some people should have learned this by now. Some people walked out.
Didn't stay for the
final. We had like 1 or 2 people walk out.
But I mean, then again, it's a trailer.
Some people walked out like after the mid credits. Some people don't realize
that was me.
There are 2 of these things.
My opinion, and I know this is kind of going out of order because it's the end of the movie, but my opinion is that Doctor Strange post credit sequence that basically makes up most of this trailer was kind of shit to begin with. It wasn't really a post-credit sequence. It was just tacked on footage.
I mean, that's what Captain America: First Avenger did. All that was just a trailer for Avengers.
For Avengers.
Yeah, and I also didn't like that one.
What?
I didn't like that one either. I mean,
I thought the teaser at the end of Captain America was Thor. Am I wrong about that? No, that was Iron Man 2.
yeah,
My bad.
getting them mixed up. So, what do you guys think of the trailer?
Who wants to go first?
I don't care.
I'll go first. Fuck it. I thought it was a bad trailer.
Tina and Nico froze.
Did you guys freeze Tina and Nico? Their internet is something.
Yep. I mean,
Yeah, Tina's definitely frozen.
here, how about this? I'll go first while they're going.
Okay.
I thought it was a bad fucking trailer. There's really nothing that it kind of says. And, you know, for Sam Raimi directing this one, if it you fooled me, if it was
doesn't
Sam, it doesn't feel
look
like Sam Raimi. It doesn't
Raimi.
look like Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
It looks like standard generic Marvel footage, which, I mean, that's the whole point why people were excited where Sam Raimi's directing. It's Sam Raimi.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's
if,
gonna bring
if
his.
you're gonna get some fucking rando in there, it wouldn't bother me. But you know, if you're bringing this name director,
Mhm.
I want it to feel like a fucking Sam Raimi movie. I did not get this from that trailer.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll say this. I'm not so familiar, like talking direction or like director style or anything like that. But I will say it didn't offer me anything exciting or new to get me excited because, like, of course, we get Elizabeth Olsen, Wanda back, but we knew she was going into that direction.
Yeah.
It didn't show us anything that was too teasery. I mean, if anything, it gave us a little bit of a spoiler of Doctor Strange and his like evil version or whatever.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't feel.
I mean, if Nathan, if I told you that this is from the director of Evil Dead,
Well, I don't know if
Dead
Nathan
2,
has seen the original Evil Dead.
Army of
I
Darkness,
have seen the original Evil Dead, but
I Drag You to Hell, or Drag
Me to
Hell.
yeah.
Yeah, he has a certain look. Even if you look at the
Spider-Man
first,
1, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, if you look at the first Spider-Man movie, in particular, there's a few sequences you can pull out of that movie that you know this is Sam Raimi. Like the bloody sequence in freaking a Spider-Man movie, there's a bloody sequence.
Yeah.
You know, that's
But,
Sam Raimi
like,
because he goes
wouldn't-
for it.
But I don't pay attention to
Yeah.
directors like that to, from my eye, to catch something like that.
Well, but I guess the point is it should look different, at least, even if it wouldn't catch your eye or you wouldn't know Sam Raimi. The movie should look enough different that people who don't know Sam Raimi would be like, "Oh, this looks different than a Marvel movie," because he's a different kind of director. But it really doesn't.
It just feels so generic Marvel.
It does.
But like when I'm looking at movies, I don't pay attention or compare movies.
You say that,
but I don't.
but
Well,
when,
then
when you
why
see
did they
something,
get Sam Raimi, man?
but when you see something that looks different, you comment on it. You do.
I mean, if it's something that I don't think aligns with the story, yeah, but
But yeah, it doesn't feel like. Okay, so if we take that part out, let's take that part.
Okay,
out.
let's just take that part
Take
out.
the part out that it's Sam Raimi as a director. To me, it felt like they were flinging so much footage at the screen. It felt like looking at tie-dye. You know, it didn't have any.
Nothing felt like weight. It was
Yeah,
just like
it just said blah 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 blah, blah action.
are you talking like it was like a cut?
Yeah, like it's like let's take a
still.
bunch of well, it didn't
Yeah.
feel cohesive. It just felt like let's take a bunch of cool scenes from the movie and slap them together in a minute and a half and put it up on screen.
Like
you
it
know?
was no story to the trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
like what do I care about, you know? Except the one thing that it did was it successfully made me hate WandaVision a little bit more. Because the one scene that we get is him coming to Wanda and she's like, I know I did wrong stuff. And he's like, I'm not here about that. I'm like, bitch, you should be there about that. This bitch needs to be punished. She tortured people for weeks.
I don't think it's him being there about that, though. I think it's him wanting to learn more about the multiverse because she obviously has access to it.
I get that, but it just it cements
she?
the fact. It cements the fact that they're coming in. This is good timing because I want to hear what their thoughts are on this too. Is
So for me though, she was expecting him to show up to punish her, and he has a greater purpose. That's what I got. He's like, we can't talk about that right now.
It's you're exactly right. This is exactly what it is. But for me, I'm like, I hated WandaVision so much because she didn't get punished for torturing people for weeks and weeks and weeks.
No, it's fine.
And then this trailer starts off with her. Oh, she gets to chill and prune some trees and hang out. And
but you don't know.
What
We
if
don't
she
know
becomes the villain of the movie.
But we don't know if she's being punished or she's on the run or stuff like that. She's in hiding. You don't know.
She's chilling in a garden.
But
what are they gonna do? Shoot her?
But you don't know what she is in. You don't know if she's in a different dimension where he comes to meet her. Like, we don't know that. So we don't know the fallout from WandaVision.
I mean, technically you are correct.
That's a deep cut there for those in the know.
But I'm not confident. I feel like she's going to be chilling in the woods. That's what I feel like.
I wanted to touch base on like Zach's comment before we got cut out was it doesn't feel like a Sam Raimi movie from the trailer. And it definitely felt like just an in-house trailer shop made this. Was made without really much oversight from Raimi, which a lot of the times trailers don't have.
Well, and that I agree with that too, but there's no shots in it that look like Raimi shot that.
And I also wonder, like, maybe those are later game shots, like these. I don't know. I agree. It's not a great trailer. It's like there are things about it that show that I am interested in watching the story develop, but the trailer itself hasn't really excited me all that much.
I did not like it.
I
did not like it. I'm going to see it. I'm hopeful because I like the character. And I also like Wanda. I feel like Wanda got nerfed in the TV show. And I hope they make me like her again. Because I liked her before that.
I will say this. I have no proof, but it makes me feel like it's going to commit a cardinal sin for me, which is it's like WandaVision is now required viewing.
Yeah, I hope that's not the case.
I feel like they're going to do that. And I frankly find it annoying when it's like I got to keep up with 7 different movies, a TV show.
Welcome to comics.
I
hate that. That makes me just want to drop it.
Yeah,
I am curious about how new user friendly this will be. If you could drop it, have little, or if there will be like some way to catch up on what happened.
They better have a way. Yeah, because
they're going to flash back to the fucking show.
Yeah.
Oof.
Oh.
That would be a mega cardinal sin.
Well, we're going to get more into that in a few minutes, but let's Tina, you haven't said anything. What did you think of the Doctor Strange trailer?
Meh.
I mean, I agree with that. That's how I felt.
There we go.
I mean, honestly, I didn't really pay too terribly much attention because I was still hyped from No Way Home. I will say the one.
I posted the official trailer today.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, but the one thing that I did get excited for in the trailer was America Chavez. So.
Who?
It's the character
set up
with
for Young Avengers.
It's the character with the jean jacket.
Yeah.
I have no memory of this.
Well, you wouldn't because you don't know. You don't know this character yet. Well, I mean, you will know her in the movie. That's how they're going to introduce her. Yeah. I guess. I don't like the Young Avengers.
They're setting up for Young Avengers.
They are.
So, and I love Young Avengers, so I'm always down for that.
I hope that it's a TV show and not a movie.
Yeah,
I think Young Avengers would work better as a Disney Plus thing.
Yeah,
you know what character I know really well though?
What's that?
Spider-Man.
Spooderman.
Transition. Bam. Nailed it.
Spooderman.
Go ahead.
Spooderman and Spooderman.
So what?
You got the story.
I mean, oh yeah, I do have a story.
The transition.
I thought you were transitioning to your story. Holy shit!
It transitions so smoothly.
You're right. You give me a story to lead into our movie discussion. So real quick, Slash Film gave us some numbers recently. Spider-Man No Way Home took in a colossal, about a little over $250 million over this weekend, just domestically alone. That far exceeds projected $130 to $150 million that it was expected to get, topping $120 million on opening day alone. That makes No Way Home the first pandemic-era release to earn over $100 million in one weekend, and the only film to do so in one day. I wanted to point out, I meant to do this when we were in the top 10. I love how Eternals is still on the list, and Spider-Man like swamped it in a weekend.
Yep, its entire run.
Variety has that No Way Home has grossed $334.2 million in international markets already, bringing it to almost $600 million total.
I want to point out, for those who argued Scarlett Johansson is just greedy and all that stuff, this is why.
Yeah.
This is why.
Yeah.
Also, if you were against Scarlett Johansson, fuck you.
Yeah.
We've cemented that we are all in the Scarlett Johansson camp on her.
Although she did sign on for some mystery project with Disney again.
Yeah.
Well, some of it's not a mystery. She's actually producing. She's trying to move more into production on the producing side of it, and she's producing a movie for them based on one of their IPs. And I bet you she ends up producing some Marvel project too.
Yeah, I expect if they do anything with Florence Pugh going forward on her own projects, like Scarlett might be an executive producer. This currently makes No Way Home the third largest domestic opening of all time, behind Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity War.
I mean, to tie back to our previous discussion, there is that hype. A lot of people outside of pandemic hype to go see something big and bombastic. There's that end of a trilogy kind of hype that people had. I think it's really silly and kind of lame how Sony and the producers tried to, bullshit this whole, he might not come back. He might not come back for another movie.
Yeah.
I'm like, really?
They were doing that throughout the weekend too. Like, still, like,
until the head of Sony just said, he's doing a fourth movie. It's confirmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
when that first $120 million came in, it's like, we're getting another movie.
Yeah. Yep. All right, so we notoriously, when we all get passionate about a subject, we tend to blow through and go off on tangents. And I've heard multiple times from different ones of us, I didn't really get my complete thought out. So I tried to break this up into segments so we can kind of talk about the movie in pieces and everybody can get their thoughts out there, and hopefully by the end of this we've talked it through. So if you're still with us, if you're listening to the audio version or you're listening to the YouTube stream later, which you should stop doing that and come live, because people watch it later. You should come talk to us. Now's the time to turn away, because we're going to spoil the shit out of Spider-Man No Way Home. I understand it's only been out one weekend, so you can always if you're watching the YouTube channel, you're probably watching this a week later any fucking way, so you're good.
I mean, there's screenings every 30 minutes.
Kids mini fridge at the end of term. It's going to be spoiled.
Yes, ma'am. Wow. All right, so I broke the movie into small segments, as I said. So let's get into this. And this movie really picks up within, is it days or weeks?
No, it was like a minute.
The last line of the previous movie is the first line of this movie.
Yeah.
So what they do is you basically get a recap in the opening credits of the movie.
Audio-wise,
which I prefer. I prefer that. I don't like to spend a lot of time on that kind of stuff.
It was in it was actually in the Marvel Studios crawl in the beginning. Mm-hmm. That's when the audio recap happened. When the reveal of Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and by the way, we're gonna lie and say he killed Mysterio. The doctored footage and everything that happened at the end of Far From Home, the previous movie. So this picks up immediately after Spider-Man seeing the press release of J.K. Simmons, J. Jonah Jameson, and he basically has to pick up MJ, Zendaya, and GTFO, get out of there, because everyone's like, oh shit, we know who that guy is now, and he's out in public. In a very fun web slinging kind of scene. I enjoyed that scene.
Oh, all the way up to getting back to his apartment and shutting the blinds and all that. Yeah.
It feels like to me, and I already know, spoiler alert, because Zach forced me to have some of this conversation already after he saw it.
It was too irresistible not to do.
That this first sequence and this first part of the movie is really rushed. It's really fast.
Yeah, the first 20 minutes feels like almost like they had a rough cut of 3 hours, and they're like, we got to trim this down. Well, just trim the first 20 minutes, like,
see,
almost to an inch of its life.
To me, I don't feel like it was rushed. I think it was setting the pace or the feeling of the anxiety that he's taking on.
See, I agree with that. I didn't have an issue with the speed.
Yeah,
I was fine with it.
It didn't feel rushed to me.
It felt frantic because it felt frantic for the characters.
You wanted to him to feel the pressure now. Like, yeah, there's a weight of people knowing, but then it's like that anxiety of like telling a secret. How many, like, now people know, what do I do?
Getting somewhere safe.
Yeah.
And it could be a byproduct of, like Zach said, maybe they did cut from the beginning to kind of keep it a little bit snappier. But if so, it worked.
Yeah,
and see, I agree with both sides of that. Like, I agree with what you guys are saying, that it sort of builds the anxiety that they were going through. But from a storytelling side, I also see that we've got a lot to do in the middle and back end of this movie. Let's get this shit moving. Let's get this shit moving. So I had no issues with it kind of going at that frenetic pace at the beginning. In fact, it didn't really occur to me even when I was watching it, to be honest. I was just kind of in the moment of it.
Like, I mean, the whole sequence where he has to get back to his house, I mean, that's not the first 20 minutes. It's the first, like, 7 minutes. I'm talking the first 20-minute block.
Yeah. But even within the first 20-minute block, I was already walking into the theater with adrenaline of excitement. Then to start the movie with that high intensity, fast pace, kept that adrenaline building. So when we did get to moments of levity, I was going on a nice emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, pretty much. It doesn't give you a moment to breathe until we get to the first real celebrity guest star appearance of the movie. Yeah, which I think is intentional, because like you're so pumped up by the time you get there just by the adrenaline that you're kind of awestruck when you finally get to see who shows up in the scene.
Yeah.
I don't want to jump ahead because that's like part 3 and we're kind of in the middle of part 1 and 2.
Yeah. The thing is, the one thing I will say, now I told you guys, you know, my overall score on this movie is an 8 out of 10. I really liked it. But when I look at it, you know, from a perspective of, you know, the direction, I couldn't tell you in this, especially in this first 20 minutes or so. The director is almost nameless to me. It feels
by committee.
It does. That's my only negative, is it doesn't feel like it has a voice, like a unique voice to have. It doesn't feel like, it feels formula. It feels standard operating procedure for Marvel in that way. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I like to get, you know, Cheesecake Factory too. But it feels
Who directed this?
Well, I looked him up. Yeah, it's like, and I looked him up and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, all right. You did the other 2 Spider-Man.
The other 2.
He did the other 2. And in a positive note, it does feel consistent with the other 2 if you really like the other 2. So it does feel that way. Now,
that's your positive. That's my negative.
I mean, the other 2 were both 5.5, 6 out of 10 for me.
Oops.
So I'll be honest.
Way to spoil my thoughts.
This trilogy, though, was the most consistent of the Spider-Man movies to me.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Spider-Man 2 is still, to me, the 100% best Spider-Man movie that has ever been done. But that trilogy is all over the place, especially when you hit the third one. The third one's a damn nightmare. Funny side note question is, Zach and I were both asked earlier, Amazing Spider-Man or Spider-Man 3? Spider-Man 3.
Spider-Man 3.
For the worst, or which one?
Which one would you rather watch?
Spider-Man 3.
Spider-Man 3.
Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a fucking parody of superhero movies.
Yeah, it really is.
No, I would watch Amazing Spider-Man 2 over Amazing Spider-Man 1.
You know what's really funny is I'm
no.
actually going to have more commentary or more thoughts on those movies in a few minutes.
I wonder why.
Yeah, right. All right, so we moved from within like literally the first 15, 20 minutes, we're into the setup or what the sort of the aftermath of Far From Home. We kind of talked about that a little bit about what he has to do to kind of survive after it. And I do appreciate that we get that really fast, but you really get it fast. And it changed this character in a huge way from the other two movies. Like, in a huge way. This is a very different Peter Parker Spider-Man than the first two movies in that way. Because now he's hated by half the city.
Yeah. To be fair, he's also, half the city hates him, half the city does still view him as the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Which makes
you don't really see too much of that dynamic until he gets to school, though.
Yeah, but I was going to say, which makes him the most Spider-Man he's been so far, kind of. Because the public opinion aspect of Spider-Man has definitely been a large part of the character just in comics. And that's not something that he's had to deal with all that much in the movies. So it is really cool to see that effect. And this movie just overall kind of solidifies the Tom Holland MCU Spider-Man becoming more and more like a traditional comic book-esque, even more akin to the other movie Spider-Man, and we'll get to that.
I knew it. I knew you would hit on this the same way that I did, and this is one of the very first super positive parts of this movie for me and of this character. Is you guys know I have complained that the previous two Spider-Man movies felt like baby Iron Man. Spider-Man is supposed to fucking struggle. That is what Spider-Man is about. And finally, in this sequence, in this part of the movie, he starts to be Spider-Man. You know, Spider-Man for me was always half the city loved him, half the city hated him, right? And usually it was law enforcement that fucking appreciated him and the public hated him because they read the paper, you know? And you start to get that in those scenes. And like, it got me, like, I didn't go in, like Nathan said, I didn't go in with my adrenaline pumping or whatever. I went in hoping for the best because I thought the other two movies were just okay. But when that stuff happened, that's when I was like, thank you. Thank you for giving me the Spider-Man that we're supposed to have. This is what makes him a unique character to Iron Man and to all the other Avengers.
He still uses Stark tech.
We're getting there, baby.
Yeah, we're getting there.
We're getting there. Yeah. But this is like that glimmer that's like, you know, it's like that diamond in the rough. It's like, oh shit, here we are. This is what I needed. And I don't know. I feel like for you guys, it got you excited too. Because for me, that's when the movie started for me. I was like, we're doing this. I still hate what they did with Flash Thompson. I hate that character in these three movies.
You're not supposed to like
fuck,
Flash
I hate
Thompson.
that character.
Well, it's not that I hate him. I don't hate him for the right reason. You know what I mean? I hate him because
he's so fucking annoying.
Well, Flash Thompson is always annoying.
I don't know this character. Well, I only know him based on these movies. Okay, I fucking despise him.
To Tina's point, he's supposed to be annoying. You know, in the comics, he was like a jock.
Yeah,
right.
He's the bully. He's
the bully.
The bully to nerdy Peter Parker.
And I understand that they kind of had to update him for the times or whatever, and I get it. And it's a minor thing. I just don't like this rendition of him. But it's fine. It's such a small piece of the movie.
This movie automatically gets a 6 points off because they didn't kill him.
Wow.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
All right, so are we on part 3 now? Or are we going to
yeah, because we're going to get into the meat of this, and it's going to be much longer. So this is when he got arrested. This is also when the first big problem for me happened. I got kind of pissed off for a second in this because he gets arrested, right? He gets arrested, and I kind of understand why he gets arrested, but then he got arrested on some pretty big major charges. And they're like, oh, you can go home.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck?
You good, bro. You can go home. I was like, why did you even arrest him if you were going to make it a stupid plot point? Like the whole sequence felt like it was created
for jokes.
No, it was created for one magical moment that did not get spoiled for me. The whole sequence only exists to have Matt Murdock pop up in the movie.
Yep.
He got to go home because he has a really good lawyer.
Does he? Because is Matt Murdock
really
is he that good?
Also, side note, May was calling him Matt, not Mr. Murdoch. Matt.
Mm-hmm.
May got some devil dick.
Well,
I mean, she's getting some dick from everywhere. Then she's getting some Stark Tech dick too.
I would assume that you'd be able to call your fucking lawyer by his first name.
No, you would show proper respect, sir.
All right, but no, I think that was still the funny thing is there was rumor mill about Charlie Cox coming back in Daredevil. That had been floating around for a while, but not like all the shot justification people kept like taking from trailers. Like, look, it's his forearms. It was none of those shots.
It was none of it. Yeah. So I didn't know he was going to be in it, and when they showed him, I was thrilled to see him because I love that character, and I think the actor is great in that role. Do I think Disney can carry it forward the way it should be? I don't think so, but it was so cool to see him.
It was a little bit of a disappointment because we got so excited when we saw him, and my nephews turned to us and was like, "Who's that?" So they haven't seen the Daredevil TV show, so we have to fix that.
So my theory on that one is I think they have something in the works.
Because, I agree.
There's like other Daredevil developments that may also be happening in other Disney franchises that aren't aren't in the show. So
it is what I thought.
Yeah. So
Damn it.
I can't help it if
I didn't do that.
Nico did that. I haven't watched it yet.
I was gonna say I can't help it if the official social team of those accounts are already publishing that stuff.
I didn't see it.
You
fucking hell. I knew it though. I was right.
And then we also got Kevin Feige just being like, "Fuck you guys." Okay, here.
But no, I think this was coming out and a couple of weeks ago when Feige just flat out said, Tina said, it's like Charlie Cox is the MCU Daredevil. He is our Daredevil. I am fairly certain there's a Daredevil project in the pipeline.
But if it's not a Hulu project, I'm going to be sad because it should be. It should be a Hulu project.
I think it needs to be a Hulu project or a rated R movie or something.
Yeah.
I don't even think Daredevil has to have a movie. Give him a show. That's where Daredevil was amazing.
I think the show would work great, but if they did go the cinematic route, it needs to be an R movie.
Yeah, I agree, and I just don't see him doing it. But the problem was I loved, I'm so conflicted because I loved seeing him pop up in the movie, but I hated the fucking way they did it because that scene was just manufactured to bring him in for a cameo because all of a sudden he's arrested and no, you're good, bro. You can go. It's cool. I hated it. And it feels like a minor thing, and it maybe would be in the scheme of comic book movie things, but there's going to be a few more of those.
I got one of those later, so that's fine.
Yeah. I agree that the whole arresting scene, not only of the arresting of Peter Parker, but his whole entourage, that's where it felt rushed to me.
It felt cringe.
I mean,
it's you had these scenes for each person gets their own 10-second scene, and then it goes back to the apartment.
Yeah, it's oh, you're good. You can go.
What?
Yeah, it just felt like it.
We're Marvel. Okay. We have to have comedy.
I get. Well, no, it's your Spider-Man. You better fucking have comedy because that's been some of the problems with Spider-Man before is they didn't do the humor stuff right. But it if Charlie Cox, if he hadn't been in that sequence, I think I would just be saying, "Oh, well, this is some bad writing here in the middle. It was unnecessary. You could cut it." But it makes it worse that he's in it because it's oh, this was written for him. It's just for him.
Y'all want to see my reaction?
Well, I don't know. So, I don't know if it's written for him. I am betting, and I don't know anything about the shooting schedule of this movie. I bet that's a late shoot.
Agreed.
If we go into my theory of they've got something in the pipeline, they may have had, like you said, a generic lawyer scene or something plotted, and maybe with the hopes that they could have Charlie Cox there. But I bet that they had something, they had a placeholder there, and they were just able to put Charlie Cox there.
Jennifer Waters.
That would have been good too. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Marvel is not short on superhero lawyers.
That's true. They are not.
Could have gone in multiple directions.
Yep. What were we going to say, Nathan?
I think I viewed that whole sequence and that scene as like, okay, we already got the news. So it was kind of like a force. They have to apply pressure to Spider-Man and his entourage, like before to add to the public opinion, because you have two sides. You have the side that is like, he's guilty, he killed, blah, blah, blah. And then you have the other side, he's innocent. So it had to come across in that time like they were pursuing him innocent until proven guilty, that it had to kind of line up to heighten more of the like good guy, bad guy.
Yeah. If it was just for the murder of Mysterio, I could see that. But they also were trying to tack on like terrorists,
all the stuff, charges, all the stuff,
which is not taken lightly at all.
Yeah, in my world, if you get arrested for terrorism, you don't get out.
But here's the thing: you from the same universe of when you had Civil War and the government was trying to take over the Avengers and how much they could do and blaming them for the destruction of certain cities and how much they pay, it aligned with that. So
it did, except the fact that he got to go home.
I would have said they probably would have like taken him to the raft.
Again, he's also Cap, and he's also covered by Tony Stark's money.
I was about to say that if he was covered by Tony Stark's money, he sure as fuck wouldn't be going to Matt Murdock, because Matt Murdock is that guy in Hell's Kitchen that works for free for people who have no money, right? So how is it? And that's always the problem. That's the problem with this movie and with every Marvel project going forward. It's like, when Hawkeye struggles, why can't he just, flip a switch and call the hand of God, Thor to come down? Or why can't he call, Pepper and get the monies? Because he can, so you always have to. They always have that shadow over them.
They had already established the personal relationship between Spider-Man and Tony Stark in the previous movies. So, and it's a different relationship compared to the other Avengers with Tony Stark and stuff. It's very different. It was more of like a father-son mentor.
Exactly. So why didn't he have access to all that support?
He did have access to all that support. They just happened to go with this lawyer. So
you don't go with the guy who's working in the slums for free if you've got billions of dollars.
You are starting to write the film for the writers.
Yeah, kind of. This, you can't get out of this scene. It's just now. Can I say that while I hated that lead up to it, when they're like, the thing happens and they're like looking at Matt Murdock and they're like, how did you do that? I liked that sequence. I'm like, because he's a badass.
I'm a really good lawyer.
Yeah, because he's a badass, and we know it. And, I always got to throw my support behind the blind hero, because that's the life I live.
Oh, and let's not also forget, Spider-Man's a minor. So how are these heavy criminal charges going to stick with a minor?
Terrorism doesn't give a fuck.
Terrorism doesn't care.
It does, though, because they end up blaming an adult to get better charges and more time, which they did try to get onto Happy. So.
Not really. I mean, it's not really. Right. It's not there. It's just not there. I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I think it's left so much to infer it and figure it out on your own. It's not actually in the movie, and you know how I feel about that.
I will say I do like the additional problem, and it's more realistic than other instances that I've seen, that it's starting to affect their college application, their actual futures.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, which kind of gets good tangent to moving on to the next segment of that's.
Can I say something? I'm trying to say something 5 times.
What?
Sure.
You want to see my reaction to seeing Matt Murdock on screen?
Oh, no. See, if it's a joke, it wasn't worth waiting for.
Well, I've been trying to do it for fucking 10 minutes.
Well,
go.
Then it's a really bad joke, and we're moving on.
Zach, let me cut your losses.
Here's my reaction. Okay.
Well, that wasn't worth waiting for.
All right,
moving on.
That was
that
was dumb.
Yeah, that was. All right, so we start to go into what you're talking about, where it's affecting their college applications, it's affecting their life, all this stuff. So Peter Parker goes to Doctor Strange for help, and that part makes perfect sense to me. They've been trying to set him up as the new father figure since Robert Downey Jr. is gone, it's a very
got goatees and mustaches, so
they do.
They're both arrogant pricks.
They're both arrogant pricks. Yeah, And it's a very comic book solution that Doctor Strange is coming up with.
Although I have to say, I like the whole. You didn't try calling them first to plead your case. What the fuck's wrong with you?
I like that a lot.
I love Strange being upset about that too
because he's wearing a Columbia University sweatshirt. He knows what it's like to try to get into like MIT and Harvard.
I love it. I love that scene because I'm in Peter's boat. I would not, at that age, I would not have thought I could address that. It's like they told me no. That's the end of the argument. I would not think I have a.
It was realistic. It was realistic because
that's one of those beautiful moments. Yeah. Where you like, oh yeah, he really is a teenager.
And I really like what Strange says is like, I forget you're still a kid.
Their chemistry and dialogue was amazing.
They do have good chemistry in that father-son kind of role. They do work well together. I liked the Tony Stark in that role better because he's such a kind of a. It was more of a struggle for him because he's more of a edgier type of guy, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think Tony basically saw Peter as a better version of himself. Like it's basically like he says in Homecoming. It's like, I want you to be better than me. I want you because you're smart. You could be like Iron Man, but with superpowers and also learn from my mistakes. Whereas Doctor Strange doesn't see Peter as an heir apparent. He sees Peter as you are also in the same line of work as me. You're just young and new at this. And Doctor Strange, I think, came out after Civil War. But I mean, theoretically, I think the way they actually works in universe, he was probably studying to be Doctor Strange during that time period. And he is an adult, so he also knows the way of, life that Peter doesn't know. So he's looking at more, not as much of a father figure, but just as a kind of a mentor figure. And I like that relationship. I like the fact that it gives Peter more chance to be an individual and not as subservient like he was to Stark in Homecoming. And then they have an awesome fight. That's great.
Yeah. Do you have commentary in this sequence, sir?
It was a sequence.
Okay. So
also, I love the little technicality of Strange no longer being the Sorcerer Supreme. That's wrong because he's been here longer thanks to the blip on a technical.
It's because Strange was gone for 5 years, so they needed somebody. It does go to answer why people were wondering why Wong was the go-to guy in Shang-Chi. And at the end credit scene in Shang-Chi is like, why are they going to Wong and not Doctor Strange for the top of this magical stuff? It's like, well, now we know why. I think it's weird that they use this movie to explain it, but I think the joke in this movie about why it's the case works out pretty well.
Yeah, it does. Now, did you actually have something?
I mean, well, the sequence concludes with them doing the spell. Have we
that's
talked about that, or
no? We're getting to that. Okay. We're just kind of getting. Into
I got notes on that.
So
their whole interaction is like, okay.
I mean,
you'll see a reoccurring theme with this movie and me, which is for the first 70% of it, it's just like, okay.
See, I'm like the opposite.
I just had no feelings.
And there's something here, and maybe you guys can give me some insight what you think, because I like Zendaya as an actress. I've liked her in a lot of different little things I've seen, some TV and whatever, but I've never quite been sold in the first two movies on her as Mary Jane. I felt like she was kind of like
miscast.
Well, not necessarily miscast because she's a good actress, but like forced.
Yeah.
Like forced into the story too much. And we'll get to that. But in the first half of this movie, for some reason, I finally kind of connected with her, especially in the sequences in the diner or whatever. And
yeah, she finally felt like an actual
they're
character.
Dealing with her college stuff, and there's something, and there's obviously good chemistry between her and Tom Holland. I mean, it's there. But yeah, for some reason, in this part of the movie, I actually connected with her, and I'm like,
I think it's because she in the previous films had this just indifference towards everything. It felt like she was just like whatever,
maybe
to everything. So to me, when she finally cares about something, it's like, oh, humanity. Now I can care about you.
I think that's right. Actually, I think it's the fact that she's more of an active participant.
Yeah, I was about to say it's more because for me, it's more because she's proactive instead of reactive.
Like in last movie, in Far From Home, she is like the love interest, the object of affection. So she doesn't get a chance to be a character. She is a plot object, unfortunately.
And also you remember, I didn't like that movie for a lot of reasons, but one of the things I didn't like is it felt like it was trying really hard in a lot of sequences to be a rom-com.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I fucking hated that. And
which
that
is
is
what a lot of rom-coms do. They turn the other person, the object, into affection and do a plot object
instead of making it their own character. Whereas this one, they've already established that she's part of the group. They've already established that she and Peter Parker are together. It's now time to let her stretch her legs and be a character and actually
have the chemistry, because this was the first movie she was consistently a part, like you said, a part of the group, whereas she didn't really become a part of the group till the last portion of the second movie.
But
I will say she has been the most consistent MJ we have seen in all the franchises, to me.
Disagree.
There's only one other, and
I don't think
I would not say Kirsten Dunst wasn't. Well, I would not say she was inconsistent.
She was consistent. A lot of people didn't like her as MJ, and that's fine.
I didn't like that rendition of Mary Jane.
I liked
the actress was
her
consistent.
in the second movie. In the second one, I liked her a lot.
I guess fuck it. Let's get into this.
What?
I hate every single one of Peter's friends.
Okay, I don't.
Only because this is a situation where it's essentially sins of the father, to where because they're a punchline in the first two films, they didn't really have any humanity to them. They were just punchlines and gags. So when it finally comes time to cash the check on them having their humanity and, please care about these characters, I'm like, why should I care about them? They're a joke.
Zach, it almost feels like, though, with you, it feels like you walked into this movie wanting to not like it.
I walked into this film going, everybody is trying to get
let him finish, and then you can react to what he says.
It's coming across like you walked in and you sat there and took notes on everything you did not like, or like you are building on top of everything you don't like. Like you didn't find one entertaining or redeeming quality about this film.
We haven't gotten there yet.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and disagree with him on that.
Hold on. I walked in this film not giving a shit because I don't care about Spider-Man, because the first two previous films were a 5 out of 10. They're bland. I watched them. That was it. So when everybody and their mother is jizzing into their face going, this is the best movie I have ever seen, it's fucking awesome, and I walk in and going, all right, y'all motherfuckers better be right.
I'm not
saying
the
first
it's the best
35
movie.
Minutes, because that's where we're at here, I'm like, this is the same shit as the other two films.
People are walking out saying this is the best Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, disagree.
That's actually not what bothers me. What bothers me is all the comparisons I'm seeing online to Infinity War. And I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah, no.
I like this movie a lot. I liked it a lot.
It's no Infinity War or Endgame.
No.
For me, It's the Infinity War for the Spider-Man fanboys.
I was gonna say I don't know. So Endgame is less. It is a movie, but it's less of a movie as much as it is emotional payoffs. And that's the string of that. And I guess I need to sit with both of them together more and think about it, because it's like maybe this is a more cohesive movie. But I love both. I think Infinity War is hands down a better movie.
Yeah.
But I think I can go back and forth on Endgame right now. I like both too. But
I mean, it shouldn't be compared to a ensemble compared to a dish.
I think that's also true too. I think it kind of. This is a weird movie. I think we should keep going because we got a lot.
I think to compare this movie would be more okay. Let's compare it to the
previous film and the first.
Well, or compare it to another singular situation. Like I could compare this movie to Thor Ragnarok and tell you that this movie is a shit ton better than Thor Ragnarok. Fuck
Yeah,
yeah, it is.
I'll agree with you
I
on
can
that,
compare
yeah.
it to Iron Man 3. This movie's a shit ton better than Iron Man 3 right now. And that's really kind of where the comparison should be, because it's a singular character finishing out a series, while Thor still has one to go. But I think that's more of a fair comparison. When you talk about how this might be more cohesive film than Endgame, probably, because Endgame is a culmination of a bunch of films brought together, where this is the third movie in a singular franchise that has minor ties to the larger story. Spider-Man's bigger ties to the bigger story have happened in Civil War and the Avengers than in his own movies.
I think that's why it's getting compared, is because that's when Spider-Man pops in, is around that time frame with Civil War, and then you get the Avengers, and he's part of the big Avengers group. And I think that's what they're trying to compare, as well as it is now. We are so after Infinity War and Endgame. Now you're starting to see whatever resemblance characters you have, a mass following for them. So I think that's where they're trying. That's the only thing they can compare it to, honestly, because if you look at early Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, there wasn't that full established universe group. And now where Spider-Man fell in, there was that whole establishment of the whole.
Yeah, there's a lot more. Yeah, there's a lot more expectation behind him. And maybe this is a hot take. I don't know if it actually is or isn't, but Tom, as much as I do like this movie, the best Tom Holland Spider-Man is still in Civil War. That's just how I feel.
I would put it in here. I do like the Civil War one. Back half of this movie, Tom Holland is great.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's like the last, spoilers for my discussion, but the last 20 minutes, Tom Holland is like fucking good.
And there's a lot that's good in that part. But so we have the spell. They're casting the spell, and you said you have notes specifically on that sequence?
Yeah, I fucking hate Spider-Man in this sequence because he's a fucking moron.
I love him because
he's a fucking idiot. It's like, don't fuck with the spell.
He's a moron.
I'm like, God damn, boy.
Yeah, he's a teenager.
He's a moron because he's a teenager.
He's 18 years old. Come on, man.
And
if he was 12, that'd be one thing.
Later on in the movie that sums up that sequence perfectly.
No.
Yes.
No.
Now,
he's a teenage boy, indecisive, all those things, and it culminated right there, and that just showcased where he was.
It's some shit that he would do in the comics. I could see him fucking do that in the comics.
I also, when we talked about the movie in trailers, like when it was coming out, and one of the criticisms I had was that it looks like Peter and Doctor Strange are the bad guys because they caused the issue,
multiverse,
the multiverse collapse. And that's not untrue. They do it. Yeah. But you get to, like I mentioned earlier in this episode, a lot of this movie is him learning to become the Peter Parker Spider-Man that we're familiar with in other mediums. And I think we get there because this is his mistake. And this is, to find a point on it, where he learns great power, great responsibility. Like this is him letting the burglar go that kills Uncle Ben.
It really is.
Yeah.
Not literally, but
not literally, but this is showing it's like you have a responsibility to help people. This was your selfish act and it caused this. And sometimes it's not going to work out, as we find out later in the movie, but you gotta think about this stuff. So I think it's just part of showing the character growing.
It really shows human error.
Yes.
And that's what
and the selfishness of teenagers.
And that's what Spider-Man is. Spider-Man is human error and all that stuff.
So. And to not have Spooderman take all the blame, Doctor Strange is a full-ass fucking adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he played an equal part in this mistake.
I blame Strange in this as well.
Spell. He jumped at that spell. It's like, I got an idea for a spell. Let's just go ahead and do it.
But that's Doctor Strange's ego, which is great because that's a consistency in his character that I wouldn't want us to lose. You know, 100%. He's this mystic guy.
100% there.
I was just gonna say it's like at the end of the when Peter showed up, it's just like, oh, Peter, we saved the universe together. We can do anything. Come on.
It's 100% their characterizations, and it's exactly like puts them in. Well, it gets you in the full character. Like you see both of them for what they are.
So it's like, I don't disagree with you for hating Spider-Man in that scene, but I think you're supposed to, and I think that's what's
You're
special.
supposed to get so frustrated with Peter Parker that
just-
you want to strangle his little neck.
Yeah.
Just like his villains.
Shut up.
Mhm.
Just like the villains. They
I
want to
just
strangle
wanted
his
to
little
like
neck.
groan and be God. I'm having to spend this fucking movie in this
I think
shitty
Zach
audience.
is a Spider-Man villain in the making.
I
I
agree.
think
dude,
Zach is
quick
just-
aside.
Al Borland, the
Quick aside,
greatest
real quick.
No,
villain
I
to
think
Spider-Man.
Zach just also gets a little bit of a hard on being the only person who doesn't like certain aspects.
He does. He
Well-
says he doesn't, but he does.
Well, first off, real quick aside, how was y'all's audience?
Good.
Oh, our
Yeah, I
audience
like
is good.
That's
dug
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Any
they
issues?
I had noise in my audience, but it was reactive
Yeah.
and it was uniform,
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
wasn't like it was constantly talking.
It was
or,
it
like,
was the audience that
disrespectful.
I expected, that I needed in a theater experience after the pandemic.
Well, I
Okay.
tell you what I did. When I was going, it was so packed that I actually paid the $4 upgrade on my Regal to go to a 3D showing, just so I could get a smaller audience. I mean, it was still half full, but it wasn't like sold out like every other freaking show I tried to go to. And mine were great. They reacted in the Charlie Cox appearance was a great moment in the theater.
That was when I knew we had a good audience. Was the
Yeah.
Charlie Cox one? Could you just
So-
hear collectively?
Yeah.
So
It's
I
like-
had the worst audience theater experience in 2021 with this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, was somebody having sex right behind you?
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
the worst.
for me.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to challenge that. That takes the cake. I had people bringing out their fucking phones, taking phone calls,
Oh,
talking,
no.
talking,
That's when I kicked them.
whispering, eating their fucking wrappers. Like
No,
So
if I see
did that
that,
affect
that's
your viewing of the movie? Did
Oh
that,
my
like your
God.
opinion of the movie?
5:20 p.m. on a Monday at the biggest it's Theater 16 in Green Hills.
yeah, good spot. Good spot.
God damn.
I'm sure it did, because we had this almost same discussion when we did Civil War, where all of us loved it, and Zach's like, I hated it.
No. Civil War was way worse than this. Civil War was like, I walked out of that going, I don't even know if it was a good movie.
Oh, yeah, I've had one.
This,
too.
I went, I got it. But, I know what it is. Like, when we went and saw 8th grade,
Yeah, that was
both of
bad.
us walked out going, I have no idea if that was a good movie or not.
Yeah,
We were
because the
so
audience was
heated.
so bad. Yeah.
Yeah, this was just like a fucking terrible experience. Like
Aw.
snoring. People were fucking snoring.
I don't believe you on that.
I
don't.
mean, I do believe.
People were snoring.
I believe him on that one.
I've had people snoring. It's just
Well, you
I've had
said it was a
people
dad
crying
that took
really
his
hyped
kids.
up.
Yes,
Yeah,
it was
so he
a
wasn't-
dad. And then I looked over, like several people were like, what the fuck? And then they were tapping him, trying to wake him up.
Yeah.
And then his fucking phone went
All
off.
right.
He dropped it. Hold on, let me get my fucking flashlight out in the last 3 minutes of the movie to try and find my
He was
phone.
drunk.
Fuck you, asshole.
All right.
$10, he was drunk.
God. Anyway,
So-
that was my audience.
Part 5. All right, so this is they open the multiverse, and then we bring in the villains. So this villains.
The spell ultimately it fails.
yeah. So
Obviously.
the reason
Uh,
it fails is like Peter's trying to ask for a lot of exceptions to make everyone forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. That's the spell.
Right.
Peter's trying to throw in all these suggestions,
Like,
and
oh, Ned, oh, MJ, oh, Aunt May, Happy needs to know.
it overloads
Yeah.
the spell. And Peter's last thing is basically let everyone who remembered before still remember that I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah,
and
and
the-
that's when things got fucked.
Yeah.
That's what triggers the multiverse.
All these
Now, this is
villains-
going to come back to something at the end, but the actual spell was for these people to not know his secret identity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to
Yeah.
get to this in the end, an issue that I actually have.
So yeah, it brings Strange contains the spell, but some people slip through. Some people who remember that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and they are people from the multiverse, being the other two Sony Spider-Man franchises.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they are the villains that Peter Parker, that Spider-Man has fought in those movies, who learned that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
So a lot of that villain reveal we got in the trailer. right?
Yeah, we knew everybody that was coming.
We got Doc Ock,
the poster.
Yeah, we got Doc Ock and
Doc Ock,
that reveal.
Green Goblin,
Lizard,
Electro,
Lizard.
We got
Sandman.
more. We got more of some of them than I expected. Like there was more Lizard and more Sandman stuff than I like. I didn't expect them to have talking roles.
I felt like the Lizard in this movie.
He got shafted.
He was unnecessary.
Yeah.
I don't know why we had to have him.
They wanted somebody from each movie. That's
I know, but I feel like that's just dumb.
He felt like a fifth wheel. He really did feel like a
lizard.
Fifth wheel.
He was a dinosaur.
Get Jurassic Park.
I was surprised because the actor, I forget the actor who plays the lizard off the top of my head, but it's the guy from Amazing Spider-Man. Like Sandman is totally Thomas Hayden Church. Like, and they weren't in any of the marketing material. Like we had Alfred Molina, we had Willem Dafoe, Jamie Foxx. Like they got the press tours, and then these two guys, it's like, well, probably because they're not really on set at all. So
this is my feeling about the villains when they come in. Alfred Molina, as expected, as was in the second one, is great. Yeah. Willem Dafoe steals every scene he's in, as was the second movie.
So good.
Jamie Foxx, a good actor.
Way better performance than his fucking role in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah. Still kind of annoying to me in this movie. But pretty good. But good. Yeah. But damn, Willem Dafoe. God, I want more of him. I want him back.
I almost started crying because of him.
So good. I loved Willem Dafoe so much in this movie. He was such a terrifying, menacing bad guy.
He was scary. And we're going to get to it, but he doesn't give a fuck when he's the Goblin. He's real
pure evil.
He is a real villain in the way. The closest thing that this version of Spider-Man has seen is Michael Keaton to a small degree, right?
And Michael Keaton's like, hey, look, I'll do what I have to. I'm doing what I have to
maintain my kids and
to maintain my family.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I don't care about you. I care about my family, and that's it. But Goblin's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm just gonna. We're gods. We can do whatever we want, and I want to go around throwing pumpkin bombs, and that's just my role.
Exactly.
But to talk to him as an actor, to switch from that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of thing, his full-on facial expressions,
his body language,
that transition is so clear.
Yeah,
like it was just beautiful to watch, and I literally would give me goosebumps.
It was so good. It reminded me why he was like. Is still one of the best villains in a comic book movie, even if he does wear a Power Rangers armor.
Yeah, but that's also what they get rid of the first thing. It's like he smashes the helmet almost immediately. So like he's still got the armor underneath, but it's underneath rags.
And he still has the mental condition.
So. I like the whole in comic books, Green Goblin has like a face tight mask that, so he talks, the mask moves with them. So it looks like it's an actual working face. And that's really hard to get that concept around as a mask that you put on. So instead, they just have Willem Dafoe just be a goblin in person.
I think his face does kind of fold it, go into a goblin-like look. I don't know if they pointed his ears a little bit more, but the way they did his makeup, costuming, like his face, he looks like a goblin with his eyes and everything. But.
So to contrast him, to contrast the villains, we get the worst kept secret in Hollywood. We get the two Spider-Man editions. We get Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. And in these sequences where they're starting to figure out what the ultimate end game is, I love the interactions between the Spider-Men and then the interactions between the villains, the way they're sort of contrasting each other.
So this is I want to get into this point because it's like the one real logic flaw I kind of have with the movie. And I don't know if either of you guys have.
I think it might be the same one that I have.
So when basically the other Spider-Man show up because Ned has Strange's portal thing. We're
going to get to that.
Here we go.
In the earlier fight, Peter, MCU Spider-Man, Tom Holland, steals it to kind of hide Strange away while they deal with, because Strange wants to let all the bad guys die. He wants to send them all back, but they now know that these bad guys are pretty much immediately going to die in their fights against their respective
they apparently got pulled moments before their death.
Yeah. So that is, and Tom Holland's like, no, I can't let that happen. I've got to try to save them. So he traps straight away. Anyway, Ned, while Peter's off because Goblin just wrecked everything and
we'll get to that
on May.
Yeah.
Well, no.
We could have said we'll get to that, you dick.
I'm taking too long on this.
Yeah.
He opens a portal because he wants to see Spider-Man, but the Spider-Man he ends up being first Andrew Garfield and then next Tobey Maguire, not his. This point in movie is about a day and a half from when Strange cast his spell. These guys supposedly have been in the MCU the same amount of time as their respective villains. And Andrew Garfield says, like, hey, I've been looking for your Spider-Man. And then Tobey Maguire is like, hey, I've been looking for your Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield, by the way, is in his Spider-Man outfit. And Tobey's got plain clothes on with his suit after. But Andrew's just straight up Spider-Man right now. And it's like, you've been here a day and a half trying to find the MCU Spider-Man. And you've been in an alley this whole time?
Yeah, it's not like his face is plastered on like every news site.
You can also web sling, and you'll probably immediately find like somebody looking like it. This should not be a hard thing to do.
Yeah,
and
it'd be different if they were pulling them in right then from the universe. I would have an issue.
It would be, but that's not what was happening. Because the spell was contained at that point.
So
I get it's just trying to force getting Andrew and Tobey there. It is kind of sloppy. It's what I would kind of akin to, Stephen, you talking about the questioning and detention in the arrest scene just to get to the Matt Murdock scene.
Yeah.
I love the scene when they're there. The logic that
gets them there is slapped together. Yeah.
Well,
but the actual character work of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, once they're in that scene and interacted with each other, the MJ and Ned interacted with Tobey and the Nana, and I liked when they threw the bread at Andrew. It's like, I get the tingle, she's not at bread and all that stuff. And then
that was cute. I liked it too.
All of that onward. It's just I have that one.
But the counterpoint to that is, how long did it take them to figure out they were in a different universe? Because when you go back and look at Jamie Foxx, he's pulling power from he didn't even realize he was in a new world until it was explained to him, oh, I'm in a new universe.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Again, newsreels going over Spider-Man, trial of Spider-Man, blah, 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 blah. Spider-Man's arrest.
If they're paying attention.
I never went through an arrest. But that's not me.
But also, that's about 24 hours earlier.
But if they're paying attention to that, though, you don't know exactly what they were doing, thinking if they were in their real world until they started learning things. You don't know exactly when they found out.
Yeah, either do the writers.
Norman's psychotic and like completely deranged.
Norman
to this point.
found it within 20 fucking minutes.
But it depends where they were thrown into at the universe, though.
Yeah, I guess I'll be honest. I think it's because of the scene happening so fast. I didn't really think too much about it until now you're bringing it up, and I'm thinking more about it. I'm starting to break it apart, and I tell you why. I'll tell you why I didn't. Because what bothered me more about that same scene is we spent an entire
this bothers me.
We spent an entire sequence in Doctor Strange with Doctor Strange struggling to fucking open a gate, and he's the Sorcerer Supreme, and he's learning. But every fucking Marvel character, every side character now has to be like a superhero. And Ned's like, I have a history of magic in my family. Well, when the fuck did we hear about that till just now? And then you spin it around and you opening the gates immediately when you get the ring.
Here's my thing with that.
I fucking hated it. I hated it.
Here's my thing with that. And I've had discussions with a lot of friends over this one this past week. Doctor Strange, one, is recovering from an injury. Two, he's an egotistical dick who thinks he knows everything. He's an adult. He's more of the science mind as opposed to the magic mind when he starts learning. And you can see that, he's a slow learner when it comes to the magic.
I don't see that at all.
No, yeah, they showed it in the movie how everybody else had their portals open,
actually,
and they had to force him to like open the portal or you die.
Actually, yeah, I will say this. Yeah, it did seem like everybody else in Doctor Strange
Doctor Strange's movie
did pick up the portal use way earlier.
Now, in a training camp with magician teachers, though.
I was gonna say
nothing.
Yeah, I was gonna say that said. You're right. Like Ned does not have any traits.
No, I'm not saying like,
here's the thing.
That's perfect.
But Ned's like, fuck it, here we go, baby.
But Ned's character didn't even know he could do it, and he's really trying to focus real hard. He did it on accident at first, and then he was able to do it.
You ever ridden a 5-wheel bike? You didn't even know it existed. Guess what? You're great at it.
It's like, yeah.
Well, I might be great at it. I haven't been on it yet, so
but
you didn't know about it until you sat on it.
They show later on Ned's not great at it. He can't figure out how to close it.
Yeah, that makes it even worse, though.
He can do it until the writers
the script says, "Oh, we need to open a gate real quick so we can jump through." He can't do it, but then he can within 5 minutes of each other in the story. It's like, this is a convenience. This is a plot tool. And not a real piece of storytelling.
Yeah, it's a plot device.
I agree that it could have been done better, but I think there's certain logics that...
I think you're imparting a lot, though. You have to impart it all, though.
What are the rules of these portals? How long do they last?
And can anybody who has that ring and says they have a history of magic in their family spin their hand and do it? That's the thing. It's like...
Yeah, none of these rules are kind of explained.
That right there is a major reason.
But you're also in a universe where not everything can be explained.
That's not true.
Fuck you.
You better explain it to me in some way or another.
But also keep in mind, in Doctor Strange, the Sorcerer's Supreme, the ancient one, says everyone has magic in them. They just have to learn how to wield it.
Yes.
So
well, then you need to replay that line for me because I sure as shit don't remember it.
It's in the first scene when she's in the like little tea room thing.
Great.
And she does the and it goes.
Yeah.
Great.
I think we're having to do a lot of story imparting to be able to make it okay that he did
It's been
that.
7 years since that. And I don't remember that
They
shit.
could have done it a shit ton better, but I accepted.
Or we could have went back and watched all the movies before we went and saw this goddamn movie.
I don't want to have to do that.
Homework now.
But I'll tell you, that little aspect right there is a lot of the reason this thing got bumped 2 points. Because I'm like, fuck you. I just saw Awkwafina and fucking Shang-Chi become a master archer at the end of that movie. And now I gotta see Ned. Now I gotta see Ned. It's like every side character can't just be a human friend. They gotta have some special fucking ability.
Well, now he's fully a human friend because he don't remember.
Unless he gets that ring again.
Yeah.
Then what? I've got a history of magic in my family.
I do, on principle, agree that I like the Awkwafina bit about like they should just be normal, but like I'm willing to give leeway to my logic issue about they've been in the world for a day and a half. It is a contrivance to push ahead so that we can get these scenes with what is really like the key bit of this movie of the 3 Spider-Men working together, and them essentially 2 of them essentially showing the MCU Peter, this is how you Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I love because when they're together, when like Peter, they confront Peter on the rooftop and he's just inconsolable and destroyed, and they're going like, we've been there, we've had all this stuff too, we get it. And then it's like, we need to help them because it's what we do. And they go and they science up. They go into a school lab and it's like, we're smart. We're Spider-Man.
Okay.
We can fix this.
I have to tell a story about this part of the movie.
Okay.
Somebody had to call me and complain about this movie right after they saw it. Okay, there are legitimate like things to be annoyed about in this movie.
Fuck.
There are.
Fucking fuck.
Where you going, boy? Where you going? So there are legit things that are problems. This is a good movie, but there are legit stupid things they could have done better. But there is a joke in there where there is a riff on a meme. And somebody ate up 10 minutes.
I'm something of a scientist myself.
So that's a meme, right?
I'm something of a scientist myself.
I didn't even remember.
Why are you referencing fucking Reddit in your fucking movie?
So Zach got so mad about that.
God damn!
But here's what happened. This is how you want to know how mad Zach got about that.
If you
did, wait a minute. Let me tell the story. So he got so mad about that. He ate up 10 minutes of conversation on this, and I'm like, Zach, I don't even remember this meme. He was so mad. He insulted me. He's like, it's because you're out of touch, and he realized what he said. And he's like, with memes, and I'm like, fuck you, boy. He got so mad over something that just doesn't matter.
What I mean by that is in Black Panther, they reference whip your hair back and forth.
Yeah.
And what are those? Which is a meme.
Yeah.
And everybody here went, that was bad.
Yeah, it was bad.
So now when this film references a meme, I go, that is bad. And you go, well, it didn't really bother me. I didn't really know about it. Who knows? Who cares? It's like, fuck you.
The first movie, right?
Yeah, I think it's not referencing the meme as much as it's referencing the first movie.
Fucking go to Raimi memes on Reddit. It's fucking everywhere.
Yeah, but it's
been there for years.
The reason that meme exists is because the line was in the first fucking movie. I agree with Tina on this. It's referencing itself. It can't help it that people made jokes about it on some fucking Reddit.
It only got popular within the past few years.
It doesn't matter. Hey, go ahead. What were you
right around
say?
the time this fucking script was written.
All I'm saying is it doesn't matter, but somebody got so
That's
mad.
my point, is if you shit on Black Panther for doing the same fucking thing this movie's doing, then you have to shit on it too.
I thought you were saying he was going to get mad at the whole Peter Parker.
Because there's a bit where they kind of point at each other, like
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah.
It's like Spider-Verse did it better. Thanks.
You want to know the one that's like actually more annoying because it hits like a clunker is the riff on You're Amazing. I fucking hated that.
It was fun.
I liked it at first. They didn't have to keep repeating it.
That's why it landed like a clunker.
I liked the concept, and I think it worked well at the start, but it dragged on a bit too long.
Yeah.
Outside of that overly concerned one line, those sequences are so cool though, of them sciencing together like you were talking about. Like when they Zach was telling me he got annoyed that they ask each other about their web shooters. That's the first thing I'd want to ask. If as a different Spider-Man, I'd be like, how do you shoot your webs, baby? This is how my and
then they find out Toby's comes like naturally through, like biologically.
You're like, so fucking boilerplate.
Does it come out anywhere else? Like, how does that work?
I don't think it's boilerplate at all. I think that is legit what three
That's
young Spider-Men would want to know.
Exactly. And that's just such a like everybody who's like knows like the Spider-Man movies too, which is like, yeah, the first one he didn't have web shooters. He was organic. So of course, I don't know. It just seemed like an obvious thing. If you're going to have the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie, the Spider-Man in the movie with the other Spider-Man who have mechanical web shooters, why would you not bring that up?
Exactly. And also, I think it went a long way to sort of begin to establish that chemistry between those three actors.
Oh, and also it kept fully true to their original characterization of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Did anyone else notice that each one of them was their Spider-Man throughout those sequences?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was so cool. Like later, beautiful. there's a sequence where there's an emotional beat between Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and Tom Holland Spider-Man. Well, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man is less verbal, and in that scene, you see everything on his face, and I'm like, that is why you were a good Spider-Man.
And it was great to see, especially the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, because that's the oldest one of the three.
Yeah.
To see how much time go by and all the actors from that universe pick up from where they left off, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Doc Ock has a comment when he first sees Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. He's like, Peter, you've gotten so old.
Yeah.
It's true.
Because when he fought Tobey Spider-Man, he was younger.
Yeah.
The dialogue writing in the script for the different Spider-Man to capture their voice again was really well done.
Mm-hmm.
I almost wonder if that was some of the actors doing, because they really kind of nailed their individual Spider-Man.
I think the most impressive. I was really shocked with how good Andrew Garfield was in the MJ catch scene. There's a bit in the movie where MJ falls, and Zenday's character falls off, and a la Gwen Stacy, and MCU Peter isn't able to save her. Green Goblin takes him away. He's not able, but Andrew does. And when he like stops and catches her, right, and he's on the ground, and
he asks her if she's okay, and she responds, "Yeah."
His mask is off, and he's
trying so hard to keep from crying
because that's how he lost Gwen. He made up for losing Gwen.
It was the redemption. It was an emotional beat moment that was like you could tell, like, even when they were sharing on top of the roof and they were sharing their losses and what was important to them, like, you still got that vibe then. But when he caught this MCU MJ and you see it on his face before you even hear dialogue or anything, and my audience erupted into like applause at that moment.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
And it's because whether you like that movie or not, the way it was left off, he never got that redemption that he deserved, and then he gets it here. That's an amazing piece of magic that this movie did. Is it made those movies, which are bad movies, they Andrew Garfield is fine, he's good, but those are bad movies. But this movie makes them kind of matter again, which is pretty amazing to me.
In my opinion, I don't give a fuck. Each Spider-Man gets to correct or fix his biggest mistake. For Andrew Garfield, it was not being able to catch Gwen Stacy, so he caught MJ. For Toby, it was...
He was able to save everybody he wasn't able to save.
Specifically, that whole snowball effect of, because Norman Osborn was killed, Harry then turned into the Green Goblin, he lost his best friend, all that stuff. So he cured Norman Osborn of the Green Goblin virus.
Well, and to build on that, he also saved Tom Holland Spider-Man from making the mistake of vengeance.
He
did,
which was actually a good scene. Now, I started laughing to myself a little bit in the theater, and I told this exactly.
It was true.
The fight scene between Spider-Man and Green Goblin.
Oh, it was bad.
Well, it wasn't that it was bad. Okay, the first half of it is bad.
Yeah, the first half.
I'm watching it, and it's like close-up shots where you can't really see what they're doing. And
in the theater, I'm just sitting there like, can y'all just fucking take a step back?
I'm sitting in that scene going, oh yeah, Zach's gonna bitch about this because it looks like shit. And then right when I thought that, they went wide.
Yeah.
Like, thank you.
Like right when I was like, God, this is a fucking thrown together fight. If only they could take a few steps back and film it. And literally, it just went, okay.
Oh, hey, I was like, let's let them.
Okay.
Yeah, they're fighting now. Yeah. But yeah, you're right though. That is a crucial scene for Tobey Maguire, and that's one of those scenes where he doesn't speak. He just looks at him and gives him that Tobey Maguire Spider-Man kind of look, and you're like, this is a
very much
moment.
Older brother, learn from my mistakes.
Yeah.
And it was a really nice, quiet moment in a loud as fuck kind of movie. You know,
was y'all's theaters loud? Mine was kind of not.
No, it was fine. No, it was normal. I mean, by loud as fuck, I mean just loud, like a bombastic movie with so much wall to wall like action. Now, the one thing about, I think Nico, you might have mentioned it when we're talking about how each of the Spider-Man play their own Spider-Man. Tom Holland, his Spider-Man is the only one who's been part of a super team. And it's such a good scene where he's the youngest Spider-Man, but he's the only one who knows how to lead.
Yeah.
And
he says that.
And they defer to him, and it's a really great moment.
It's especially striking given, as we talked about, like Tobey is ostensibly in this movie, we think he's like aged real time to be his Spider-Man. Like it wasn't like we pulled the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man from Spider-Man 3, like the villains were pulled from.
They didn't do any fucking CGI de-aging bullshit.
Yeah. So he is a 20+ year veteran of being Spider-Man at this point. But their universe, as far as we know, doesn't have other superheroes, or at least not to the extent. So whereas Tom Holland has been kind of on the Avengers, and he was at like the battle at the New Avengers complex in Endgame and all this stuff. So he's had a more front row seat to teamwork that we are aware of. I will say there's this one scene, kind of akin to the web shooter scene, where they all go, it's like, hey, what's the strangest thing you bought? And I liked it, but I wished Andrew and Toby had non-movie answers, just to show that they did do other things outside of their movies.
I mean, I'm not going to ding the movie for that, but I agree with you. That would have been kind of cool if they referenced something else. That would have been, that would have been cool.
I get Toby's answers probably works. It's like this alien goop thing. It's like, all right, that's pretty weird. And then you get to go into Tom Holland. It's like, oh, I fought this alien purple guy with stones and all
in
that.
space.
In space.
In
Wait, hold on,
space,
you went in space?
I really enjoyed everything with the three of them together. It was a ton of fun, and Andrew Garfield was, to make a joke, he was amazing. He was really, really good for what little he, in the scheme of things, got to do.
It's crazy once you give him a script and like the studio interference goes the fuck away, and you actually get a director who cares, and not just because.
So you're saying this was a good director?
Well, what I'm saying is they hired this director based on other things other than his last name is Webb.
Being Webb.
Well,
I don't think there was any. Go ahead.
Yeah, because you were comparing this movie to the other Tom Holland movies.
No, I was comparing it to the Amazing Spider-Man
To his other
2.
two. Yeah.
Andrew Garfield.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you said Tom. Sorry.
It's
No.
Like, I think
Andrew
Andrew Garfield's a
Spider-Man.
good pick. I just think he just got fucked.
But
Sorry.
I think the one thing, if we look back on our conversations about those movies, though, is none of us ever thought that Andrew Garfield was particularly bad. We liked him.
No,
It was just his
material was
movies
given
weren't
was
good.
bad.
So he got to be the good Spider-Man that he was before, but he got to do it in a better movie, and it was really fun to watch. It was fun.
Well,
fun to see.
And I think he was also kind of handicapped by when Amazing Spider-Man 2 underperformed.
Yeah.
And then you also, the MCU was a thing at that point. So you were getting Marvel wanting to come up with like, hey, let's talk. But if we bring Spider-Man back, we're making a new Spider-Man. We can't have Garfield. It's got to be our.
But they went through that whole dialogue too when they were talking about what's the craziest thing, and Garfield has a comment. Well, I'm not as cool as you guys or whatever, and they both are like, no, you're awesome too. Blah blah blah. The
weird thing about that one though is like I feel bad for. That's why I wanted something that wasn't an answer from one of their movies, because Garfield's answer is Electro. But they can't say Electro because it's one of the active threats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would have loved it if
real answer.
I would have loved it if like Andrew Garfield was like, I don't know, man. There was this one guy who was like a hunter or something.
Something like that. Yeah. It would have been cool.
I get why.
Like I said, I don't think it's not worth dinging the movie for, but it would have made it a little cooler if they had. Like Matthew McConaughey. Boy, it would be cool if you did.
Yeah.
Can I say one thing that I noticed isn't on the agenda, I guess? I loved the more in-depth scenes with Tom Holland's spider sense.
Oh, yeah.
Like when things get muffled and you get that it's almost like a panic attack.
Which is kind of cool. It's kind of cool.
No, like as soon as it started, I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this. This reminds me too much of like the one or two times that I've had panic attacks. I don't like this.
I thought the spider sense for Candace was.
I actually loved it. Like after I got over that sensation, like that was a really good to show how that affects him. Like that actual, because we got the raising of the hair and whatnot, but this is oh, you could probably ignore that or say, oh, it's just cold out, but no, that's something you can't ignore.
Well,
it's a cool modernization of the ability.
When you get like deja vu, or you're walking into something and you feel uncomfortable, that's the exact feeling it was giving the audience. So
it was cool.
Get into like the last bit, the aftermath, and like how the movie resolves, and we get to where we're leaving off.
But real quick, I guess we got to talk about, and I don't guess, I know we got to talk about the death of Aunt May.
Marissa
Tomei. I forgot about her.
So Zach hates this character because but I actually really liked her all the way back in Civil War.
I don't hate her. My problems with Aunt May is pretty much to my memory, which is I've seen Civil War once, I've seen Homecoming once, I've seen Far From Home once. The only thing I remember about Aunt May is that she's a hot piece of ass and a joke. She's a punchline. Like
That
everything
is
around
not
here is
true.
just a joke. So when she dies, I go, I don't care because you're a hot piece of ass and a
No,
joke.
because even in the earlier Tom Holland movies, there was the mother, the dynamic between the two of them established
I have
a
no
connection.
memory of it.
But I do. So
Yeah, me too. I do too.
I mean, if it's me, it's me, but I have no memory of it. So
Now-
again, this is Sins of the Father.
Here's the
where
thing.
it's like you've set up your friends as jokes and I hate them.
Well, because she's comedy relief doesn't detract her character. I mean, yes, a lot of humor has been based around her character, but she also, especially going back to Civil War, has had some emotional connection with the Peter Parker character. Now, no, does she get as much screen time as some other characters? No, because she's not one of those fucking tights and fights. She's not a superhero, so she wouldn't get as much screen time. Uncle Ben didn't get as much screen time in the previous Spider-Man movies. He got a little more in the first one because it was an origin story, but no one wants the origin story again. We had to get her in a way that's not retelling the origin because no one fucking wanted that again.
So
she had to be more than just Peter's aunt. She had to have her own little things too. Like she was her own character, standalone character.
Well,
it's not that she's just Aunt May.
I think this movie does a lot of that work though, in terms of fleshing her out. She has a much more protective role of Peter, particularly like when they're arrested and all that. She definitely goes around Peter to try to safeguard him. And in terms of being excited about him getting in colleges and stuff like that, but then
not to mention you see her. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
The scene where Osborn goes to where she works at the homeless shelter, and she has that whole we help people. That's what we do. See, this is the job I do, as I help people, and that's what I'm trying to instill upon you. And then in the death scene, it's that same thing. And she gets to be the Uncle Ben of the franchise because she's the great power, great responsibility line. And
which is a line that he has not heard in these films yet.
Yeah, well, we kind of had a rephrasing of not the same words in Civil War, kind of, and which makes you think in Civil War that an Uncle Ben situation has happened, but we don't really get any referencing or anything to it in any of the other movies, not even his. And now we really get an Uncle Ben moment definitely hammered in because it's the line. It is the line, clear and simple. And it's Aunt May dies ultimately because of something that Peter caused.
Yes.
He accidentally is still accident, but he proactively did this with unintended consequences. And it's like, I have to clean up this mess. And he wasn't going to go that route. He was going to go the more like darker Andrew Garfield, I'm going to go kill the guy who killed my Aunt May route. And that we see how that happens because also Toby was going to do the same thing, and Toby was there, and it's like, I'm not going to let you do it because I couldn't do it. I mean, it's just this is not what we do.
Well, and although
there were people in the we weren't following
spam.
Is that what that is? Okay.
Yeah. Although Tom Holland's Peter Parker was responsible for the characters coming out of their universe and stuff, it was also a culmination of him making the decision to save these villains based off how he was brought up by Aunt May, which was another layer to why it was so impactful when she died, because she was still like, no, you did the right thing.
Yeah.
Can we get to that real quick? Because that is one thing I will admit, and I told this to Zach already. As much as I actually really liked the character, I liked her quirkiness, and I did feel that she was a part of this franchise. Her death, the way it was executed somehow, like I think back to Amazing Spider-Man. It's a bad movie, but when Gwen Stacy died,
well, you felt it.
You felt it. I shed a tear for her. But in this movie, it didn't.
I felt nothing.
It didn't. For some reason,
I felt it. I cried.
I felt something later.
Yeah, but bitch, you cry all the time.
I think it is because while she is part of the movie, it's not to the extent of like Gwen Stacy was in Amazing Spider-Man 2. And it is definitely it's definitely like she is being killed to inspire Peter to be Spider-Man.
Plus, with the Gwen Stacy death also came the shock value of the Gwen Stacy death. Like,
yeah, that neck snap was
May's death
something.
was a bit slower as opposed to the band snap.
Yeah, that's true
of
too.
Gwen Stacy.
I will miss it because I love Marissa Tomei in this role.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that makes me sad is I loved her in this role.
I love Aunt May when she knows that Peter is Spider-Man. It's like,
yeah.
Because
when she throws a banana at him, it's like, I'm sorry, I thought your Peter Tingle would catch that.
Yeah,
it doesn't work on food, parents.
Like there was a good bit in the early aughts when Peter has his identity revealed to Aunt May by accident, and
yeah,
this is not when like the world finds out. It's like Aunt May finds out, and there's a good several year stretch where Aunt May's fantastic in those books, and I love it. In Ultimate Spider-Man. The Bendis run, Aunt May learns fairly early and is fantastic in those books. I love when Aunt May knows because it makes their relationship a lot closer, stronger. And so I will miss that. And of course, Marissa Tomei was just great in the role.
Marissa Tomei was great in the role. She's a good actress, but there's a funny side story is when I was in my teenage years, I had a good friend who had a younger mom, and I thought she was like super fucking hot, and I wanted to go to his house all the time. And that's the way I looked at Marissa Tomei's character. I'm like, Ned needs to see how hot she is, because it's like that's a thing. It's a real thing.
I mean,
but I'm sad to see her go. She's a good actress, and I felt she brought stuff to her scenes.
I felt nothing. I'm sorry. I didn't feel
because
it. Now, I felt something later in the film.
It's true.
I did feel something later in the film. But with her death, I did not feel anything.
I felt her death, and I think it was more so one I knew, like feeling the chemistry between her and Peter, obviously, but also I knew with the feeling of him losing Tony Stark and now losing another adult parent figure. That was where more of the feeling was coming from.
Yeah.
And stuff. So I knew his losses were stacking up, but that was just the first of three places I've cried.
I mean, I felt something when, he was like, I don't want to go in Infinity War.
Oh,
that's like one of the best scenes in the entire MCU.
Incredible scene. Yeah, it's incredible.
So let's wrap up the movie.
Okay. So I want to ask you guys this. Okay. So the initial spell that he was trying to do was to make people forget his secret identity. Mm-hmm. But then at the end of the movie, it changes. The solution is to forget that Peter Parker exists.
Yep.
Why? Why did it not go back to just forget his identity like the original? I mean, why did we have to go to that?
See, that's one of the things where I'm not sure the extent of the spell taking into effect. Like,
my assumption is that the first spell is done kaput. There's no salvaging it. In order to clear up the ramifications of that spell, it has again, my assumption. So I'm not trying to say this is how it is, but my assumption is that they have to create a new spell in order to keep people who know Peter Parker is Spider-Man. It would just be easier to have Peter Parker disappear.
Well, I thought it had to be a completely different spell because you already had this spell that incorporated the forgetting of, or the remembering of Peter Parker. So they can't add on to another remembering
it's a completely different spell.
Where
are the rules?
None of it was defined, though. That wasn't defined.
I thought Doctor Strange was talking about that when he was up at the top.
I think Peter yells it at him.
I would need to watch the scene again to get the wording.
Peter yells it at him and says, "Why don't you just make everybody forget me? That'll do it, right?" And it's like, how the fuck do you know? How do you know? And the problem is
because of math. Because
I guess because of math.
Better.
But here's the problem.
Magic? Math.
This is the problem that I have, and we've run into this with comic books before, and I thought for sure we wouldn't carry this problem over into the movies, but we have. By making everybody fucking forget who Peter Parker is, it's kind of fucked the entire previous phases. Ever since Civil War forward, everything is fucking different now. So they better be careful in every movie moving forward how they reference previous events, because all of a sudden there was no Spider-Man at Civil War.
No,
So
No, there's no Peter
no.
Parker.
They just
don't know Peter Parker.
Yeah.
They know
So
Spider-Man.
how did he? But to get to that point though, Tony Stark knew who Spider-Man was and brought him along.
Tony's dead.
Tony's dead. We don't have to worry about him anymore.
Yeah, but
So
he
there's no
wasn't then.
pictures, there's no video, there's
He wasn't
nothing.
then. And for Spider-Man to be part of Civil War, Tony Stark knew who Peter Parker was. That's my point.
It doesn't erase. It doesn't go back in time and change anything. It's just erasing current knowledge of.
So let me get this straight.
But didn't Tony Stark find Spider-Man based off tracking down Spider-Man to learn of Peter Parker?
Yeah, but so it depends on the spell, because it's a very similar one. It happens in comics. Like, this is how they got rid of when Spider-Man. This is sandwiched in with how they got rid of Spider-Man revealing his secret identity in Civil War. Is he ultimately made a deal with the devil, but in that made it to where Spider-Man made a deal with Doctor Strange to basically Doctor Strange and Reed Richards, but Doctor Strange works enough for here to just magically erase any evidence that Peter is Spider-Man, and then also magically make everyone forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. It does not change past events.
Okay, so let me ask you if
if
it doesn't change past events. So there's a scene at the end where Peter is at Aunt May's gravestone, and Happy walks up and he's like talking to him like he's never met him before.
Mm-hmm.
So he only doesn't like, if it doesn't change past events, then at what point did Happy still remember who Peter was? Because he fucking knew, and now he doesn't, but he does.
Happy doesn't know Peter Parker. He knows Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So
but he knew him. He knew them both.
Here's how
How did he get to know Spider-Man without knowing fucking Peter Parker?
Does MJ just have pictures of some guy on her phone now?
What?
Okay, so we erased, all of. Correct me if I'm wrong here.
You're erasing the memories of Peter Parker, so you keep the memories of Spider-Man.
Great.
Yeah.
So does MJ just have pictures of some guy, according to her, on her
That got
phone?
erased.
I feel like I feel like that stuff gets dusted.
Yeah.
That's not that big a deal.
Okay.
That's like when you snap a fingers and everything dissipates. Okay,
that part doesn't.
I assume that. I thought that's what y'all.
That part doesn't bother me. It's just that if you're going to erase the knowledge of Peter Parker, knowing him, because they chose to keep Tom Holland's mask off so much, because you got to see it's Tom Holland.
Yeah, I was about to say that
it's
was very
hard
annoying.
to have Spider-Man without Peter Parker in most of the Avengers' lives.
But here's the thing: we don't know if it's altering the memories. Then the recollection of events may be different. Like if I were to sit back and look back at something that happened as a child, if I can remember one person, doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to remember everything I talked to them about.
That is my point. Moving forward, they're going to have to be really fucking careful. It will be a great time to do a Peter Parker joke here. Let's just go ahead and do it. No one will notice. Fuck you. I don't see
them doing Peter Parker
here's
jokes.
all they do. Like you said,
but you're taking it too literal. What I mean is they can't reference it as loosely as they once could, because they've written themselves into a corner now.
Nico, what were you saying?
I was going to say they're gonna fix your problem about Tom Holland taking off his mask all the time. Doctor Strange is going to CGI Spider-Man's mask on everyone's memory of Spider-Man.
See, I just imagine it as: have you ever like early childhood memories? Try to think about somebody your parents say that you met, and it's just like a blank face. You can't remember it. That's what I think.
And that's how it essentially works out. It's basically there's a gap that you. Unless you're confronted with the fact that there's a gap in your memory, you're not going to realize there's a gap in your memory.
Yeah.
But of course, we could find out that there are more rules.
My main thing about that though is Peter Parker does have to exist. There's records. I want to know how deep this spell goes, because
and that's another thing.
He has to have a birth record to get an apartment. I mean, he has to
when you tell me no one knows who Peter Parker is, then how is he doing anything?
Yeah,
he was enrolled in school, so where are his grade records? Where are his transcripts?
So this is a problem. I believe is just punted. Hopefully, it's just punted
to the next one.
4.
Yeah,
I hope it's addressed, because you're right. If you're going to make everyone forget, you still also have to account for Peter Parker needs an identity, needs proof of record. I wished at the grave scene when Happy and him were at May's grave, when he introduced himself, instead of going, "Oh, I know her through Spider-Man," it's like, no, it's like, "Oh, I'm her nephew.
We didn't get to meet.
We hadn't met." Like something like that.
I think they should have just taken knowledge of his secret identity away. It would have been so much fucking easier.
But I don't think they could have done that.
I also would have been fine if Happy knew that he was Peter, but not knew that Peter was Spider-Man. Like, that would have been fine too. But I think
because how is Happy been dating Aunt May and not fucking know who Peter Parker is this whole time?
Happy's not that smart. We've seen that throughout this.
Oh, but see, you're making up logic though.
You're
for the
now
movie.
doing the writers' work for them.
It's like,
I'm going to end this thing. I'm tired.
But I mean, you see, this was a big thing for me. It's like this.
I get it.
Yeah,
it's bad story.
It's illogical. I completely agree. I'm hoping it's something that gets addressed because it's at the tail end of this movie. So it's something that the rules of it could just be punted for Spider-Man 4.
Yeah. Now, like I said, I want to know how deep that spell goes.
Yeah.
Or
the
he has
main thing I want to get,
the
cap I want to get onto this movie. The thing I want to end this on is that I said it throughout this whole discussion. This movie is about making Tom Holland into actual Peter Parker Spider-Man, because we've gotten his great power, great responsibility mythos thrown in. We've gotten him suffering. We've gotten public hating.
He bought a sewing machine.
We get the new costume that he home makes now with Stark Tech, although assumingly he dismantles the Stark Tech that he has to put
he's a smart kid.
But still, he's using a police scanner on his phone. He sews and makes his own Spider-Man outfit that is the red and blue Spider-Man outfit.
Yeah.
And he's doing it. It's like this is, and not only that, more to that, the scene prior to the actual end, when he's in his new apartment, he goes to Mary Jane to reveal, it's like, here's the story, here's what happened, I'm going to make you remember by telling you everything that happened. And he decides not to, because he sees the bandage from the injury that she has.
I mean,
that is the most beautiful scene in the movie.
That is the most Peter Parker scene in the movie.
I hate to say
when
this.
he fucks up his own life instead of doing the easy stuff.
I love it. Tina told me after the movie, it turned to me, it's like,
You're really bad at timing.
He's just
I'm trying.
Harder for guys. Tina turned to me after the movie and just goes, Peter is just making his life harder for himself. And the answer is like, that's the most Peter Parker thing he could do.
Y'all got him to snap.
So I didn't this because like my
hang on a second.
Jesus Christ.
My main thing about this movie is it ends with the Peter Parker Spider-Man I wanted for 3 movies. This is the thing I wanted, and I'm so glad that we got this moment. That's it. I'm still excited.
Number one, hopping off his thing. Yes, I am excited finally to get to the point where I'm interested. It took 3 fucking movies. But the point about like him seeing MJ like with this tiny little itty bitty cut on her head, I'm like, she should have like a broken wrist or something. She just had something more than a tiny little. It is a nitpick.
Oh my God.
It is a tiny nitpick.
It's such a fucking dumb nitpick too, because that scene is about more than that. It's like you're missing. It's like you're digging into like a fucking bandage when really the point is the facial expressions on their faces. That's incredible.
No. I'm saying the scene's great. If it was me, get her a bigger cut or something, man.
You don't even know exactly how much time has passed. I mean, it might have been more.
The point is, he sees her. He goes, "I have hurt you."
But you saw the damage of her before she forgot the memory when they had their final goodbye, their kiss.
It was like a tiny ass little
Please
cut.
Remind you, it wasn't a tiny cut, and there was more bruising to it than that. And then you're nitpicking.
These are very tricky.
But you see, like, she was injured, and he had to see that from the beginning. It was a reminder too of her getting injured because of all his mess after losing his aunt.
I'm actually talking about the part of the film I enjoy.
Yeah, but you're focusing on something that you're a nitpick. Tell me about what you like.
Holy shit!
What did you like about it?
I would have preferred if it was something bigger than a tiny ass little band-aid.
Okay, what about what's good?
Well, the entire last 15 minutes acting wise is great. When they have to separate and they're like actually tearing up and like getting emotional, I fucking believe it for once in this fucking movie. Finally. Like, I was like, holy shit, they are really selling this. It took 3 fucking movies to finally get there, but we're finally here.
Well,
But like, the last 20 minutes of this film are fucking great.
I think the whole movie is really good. The last half hour is standout. Like,
it's a shame we had to wait 2 hours to get to it. But,
well, I liked everything that led up to it. But here's the thing, and this is to what you said, Nico. You guys know, Nico, you actually have liked the previous 2 movies a little better than me, because the things that I don't like is how Peter Parker has a silver spoon. Mm-hmm. You know, Peter Parker, Spider-Man to me is supposed to be tragic but hopeful. You know, he's supposed to struggle. He's supposed to have setbacks. He's got death in his family, but he's the guy who still goes out to fight the bank robber and make jokes and make the best of it. And finally, like, this movie, we actually are leading to that the whole movie, because there's a lot of negative things happening to him throughout this movie, the mistakes that he's made and all this stuff. You're finally starting to see him from the college point forward, when they can't get into college. I'm like, yeah, that's Peter Parker. All the way to this end where he's in this dumpy ass apartment by himself, trying to figure out how to reset his life. I was like, fuck yeah. I was exhilarated by it, because I'm like, this is the Peter Parker that, you know, I related to as a kid, you know, for whatever thing that separates him. His happens to be being a superhero, but that's the thing that I connected with. And finally, they got that character back, because there's plenty of other characters that are like the Peter Parker in the previous 2 movies. Superheroes with all the gadgets and all the power and all the, you know, buddies, and it's all like, you know, perfect. This one finally gives us that complex character. And boy, that moment in that diner was, for me, outside of the fucking bandage, was magical. Yeah. I didn't even care about that shit. It was just so beautifully done.
I got 3 things I want to touch on before we start wrapping up. One, I'm curious to know, when on the Statue of Liberty thing and the rifts were opening up and you start seeing little shapes, anybody else trying to identify like a
I saw Rhino.
Kind of thing?
Yeah, I saw Rhino.
We saw Rhino, we saw Scorpion.
I think I saw Scorpion.
I think the guy with the staff was Kraven the Hunter.
Oh, I saw the Hunter guy.
Yeah, that's what she said too. Yeah.
So that was totally one thing that we did. 2, I really am already annoyed with the fan theories of how Nick Fury and Captain Marvel and all them are excluded from the spell because the wording was on Earth or in the world. And
oh my God.
World. I'm like, fuck you guys.
Fuck you.
And fuck you is right.
3, before we forget it, let's talk about that end credit scene with
Venom.
With Tom Hardy.
Okay, somebody explain this to me real quick.
Okay.
I do have
well, wait, let Nathan, do you have anything on the wrap up? Like to the end of the movie?
Oh, the end of the I loved this entire movie. I think by far it was the best of the trilogy.
Yes.
But I've enjoyed Tom Holland's Spider-Man from movie 1, 2, and 3 compared to Tobey Maguire's and Andrew Garfield's way better than their respective.
I'm going to disagree.
I'm going to go ahead and disagree also.
I will say the second one though is definitely more of a Tony Stark funeral type vibe to it and stuff, but I can appreciate it more now how it set up this movie.
I liked Mysterio in the second movie a lot.
I hated most of that movie, to be honest.
I just remember it being like spinning wheels.
Explain the Venom scene, because I'm betting.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So
going
here's
on the limb. I'm guessing Zach hasn't seen Venom 2.
Well, I haven't seen Venom 1 or 2.
So I've seen them both.
So here's my question. I haven't seen any of these fucking movies. How does Eddie Brock, right? That's okay. Yeah. How does he know that Spider-Man is Peter Parker?
Okay,
because he was brought into this universe.
So I'm gonna tell you.
Stop talking. You could answer this for you, Zach.
Holy shit! I just asked a question. I didn't know.
And I'm trying to answer the question.
Well, okay. Well, there's a lag.
Fucking take it away. God damn.
the end credit scene of Venom 2 is basically Eddie Brock and Venom are on the run, and Venom, the symbiote, is saying, I have this knowledge of a multiverse across dimensions and all this stuff.
It's a hive mind.
It's a hive mind kind of deal. And it's like, I'll show you what I mean. And then when he shows them, he gets ported over to the MCU. We know this because the room he is now in, which is changed from basically one hotel room to another, the decorations and everything kind of warped around him. And we see a TV on with the Daily Bugle, J. Jonah Jameson announcement, hey, Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And the Venom symbiote goes, oh, hey, I know that guy.
And licks the TV, very creepy.
And that is that scene. And then we get into the end of this, the mid-credit scene of this one, and it's Eddie Brock here in the MCU for some reason. It's like, okay, what's going on? And then he gets ported back over to his universe.
Yeah.
Leaving a little part of the Venom symbiote behind, which I don't know why that would work, because
it needs a host.
Well, also, why did it not leave? Why did the spell? How did that little kernel get out of the spell?
I know why they did it. I fucking know why they did it.
Yeah, we know why.
But it doesn't work.
How did that get left out?
It's not part of the rules that have been set up by the Venom movies.
I don't know. I think that's just more of an Easter egg. I don't know if they were gonna. I don't think they're doing Venom in Spider-Man 4, and if they do, I don't think they're using that as the jumping off point. I think that's just more of a, hey, this might be a thing in the future if they. But I don't.
Maybe I don't know. I think it might be a way to do a softer Venom.
But it doesn't make sense because the spell was supposed to send everything back.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Respective universes, and to have a little piece, I was like, then there was no point of doing the spell.
Yeah, because Venom doesn't leave droplets of himself around. That's not what he does in the previous two movies. Yeah. This has not been established.
Yeah.
But I think, to me, I'm just a feeling like, we did this so that we can cast somebody else in their universe as Venom so that they can go a little softer on the character. Well, that would piss me off.
Question. Did Disney have a deal with Sony about Spider-Man for just a certain limited run, and now it's going to go back to Sony? Or
no,
they have a trilogy deal. They have a trilogy deal. Those first three movies, and I'm pretty sure that they've got another one. That's what I think.
I think the deal got extended because it was going to end, and I think it was going to end before this movie, because there was a couple of years ago was when the Sony Marvel breakup was about to happen, and then Bob Iger called Tom Holland and they fixed it. So I don't know what the current deal runs out to or what it encompasses, but I'm assuming it's just more of the same, except Sony probably gets more money out of it or something.
All I know is I saw a video, like a red carpet video of Amy Pascal, the producer, and she looked drunk as shit. And she's like, I'll do Spider-Man movies as long as Tom Holland wants to do them, which was real funny.
I mean, they just made $250 million. I would make as many Spider-Man movies as I could too.
Yeah, if I was Sony, I'd be like, let's just keep this train rolling.
Yeah, because we sure didn't do a good job before this.
Yeah.
I forgot. I do have one more point, and this will be my last thought.
Yeah.
They missed out a really good opportunity to bring back Chris Evans as Johnny Storm.
They still have more multiverse options. I mean,
that's true.
Doctor Strange is in the multiverse of madness, Tina.
That's true. Yeah, and that was funny because I stayed to the end credits, like as you do, and then there's this random, it felt very slapped together footage from Doctor Strange 2, and I'm like, well, that was fucking stupid. And then the trailer comes out, and it's pretty much the same footage slapped together in the same way.
It's the exact.
I understand going. I wish it was a scene and not a trailer.
Yeah, give me a scene.
Because it could have been like which one? Ant-Man. So the Ant-Man movie ends with a scene that is in Civil War.
Yeah,
because
like an interrogation scene or something.
Yeah, it's the scene where Falcon goes to Cap. It's like, I know a guy. So we get that. It should have been more like that one. It could have just been a little snippet of a scene that's in Doctor Strange, because it makes sense, because Doctor Strange is a big part of this movie, so it makes sense that he is the focal point of the end scene. I just rather have it been a scene and not a trailer.
Agree.
All right.
All right. So I guess we're about there. Nico, what is your number score?
8-5.
Tina?
8-5.
Nathan?
9.
Zach? I already know.
I mean, to me, this was just a little bit better than the previous two. And if the previous two are 5 out of 10, so this is a 6 out of 10.
And he's wrong about that. But I will go 8. And just tack on that I'm ridiculously excited about the next one because I feel like we're finally getting the Spider-Man that we need. I can't wait.
You know, I will say I like Spider-Verse better. They did it first, and it did it better.
I like Spider-Verse too. Yeah.
Than this soft remake.
I don't know. I'd have to see Spider-Verse again. I have
the soundtrack for Spider-Verse is 10 times better.
Yeah, fuck yeah, it is. Michael Giacchino did the score for this, and it was so.
It's not my kind of music, so I'm kind of out of the loop on that. It's not my stuff.
It's not my stuff either, and it was fucking good soundtrack.
I mean, it does work with the movie.
Yeah,
Spider-Verse is a good fucking movie.
When that Elfman Spider-Man theme hit,
oh my god, yeah, it did. Yeah, that's the only time. The nostalgia hit me. I was like, oh, I remember this.
All right, yeah, we're gonna forego Blu-rays and comics this week. There really wasn't that much to talk about anyway.
Yeah, that's fine.
So let's wrap this thing up. I'm actually really hungry now. Nico, where do we find you on the internet?
All finer social networks under Nico Scream, NIKOSCREAM. Check me out on Instagram as I just posted some pictures from Opryland Hotel.
All right. Tina?
You can find me on most major social media sites as Cheddar Popper, CHEDRPOPPR. And as always, check out the wonderful adventures of Shadow Pup, the.shadow.pupper on Instagram.
Nice. Nathan?
Find me on Instagram, Nate_R_70. And yeah.
Zacky boy?
You can find me having the correct opinion on movies on Instagram. I'm Master of the Matrix 91.
In some other multiverse. Probably in the same multiverse as Jet Li's the One.
You can you can also
in
find
the same universe where I'm straight.
Did you see the A24?
I would just like to say I didn't interrupt any of y'all motherfuckers, and y'all motherfuckers interrupted me.
I did see where they're doing that with Michelle Yeoh.
So anyway, before I was so rudely interrupted by fucking everybody here,
as you should be.
You can find me on Discord.
What did you say?
Yeah, I say that. You can also find me on Discord as well as Steam. I'm a dangerous mute lunatic. Fuck all y'all.
You can also find him on seasons of Home Improvement as the best.
Fuck you. Get fucked.
All right, so finally.
And also hosting Family Feud.
Yeah, that's right, Family Feud. All right, so find me mostly on Facebook with the Culture Smash, Off the Shelf Movie Night on YouTube, posting shit about my physical media, and hit up Kaylee the Chubbs on Instagram, and you'll see pictures of her in compromising videos of her in compromising situations with her brother. It's disturbing, but it's good.